Hello, I'm Craig Constantine.
Hello, Craig. It's good to see you.
How are you? Today I'm talking with Angie Flynn-McIver, and you've been on a full episode of Movers Mindset and lived to tell the tale.
That's right. Sure did.
um, and you've recently been sort of like AFK, away from keyboard a little bit, working on your book. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I can say it won't be out by the time this is published because it's not coming out in the next 5 minutes.
I wish. I wish it were. Gosh, that
But
would be
I
amazing.
know it's eminent. You've done the work. You've recorded the audio. So congrats on that. We do, as I say many times, a little bit of a little pre-conversation chat here to get warmed up. And you had mentioned, I'm like jotted down someday in quotes. This was your word choice when I asked about what are you thinking about when you talk about podcasting. And you said, at some point, I'd like to talk about what I want to do with maybe my podcast someday about trying to strip it down to what I'm calling this thing is minimum viable podcast. And I'm just wondering, I want to like push back a little bit against why someday, why not RFN right now?
Well, one thing that you and I have talked about in the past is I have started and abandoned a couple of different podcasts, and I think the thing that is appealing to me about the what's the stripped down version, what's the RFN version is I can get hamstrung by the oh, but it has to be this and it has to be that. And what if I don't have the perfect art
Hmm.
for the podcast? It's that thing that I think gets me hung up on not doing it at all. And so I really like this idea of what if it was insights into my coaching business. I have a blog, as you know, that comes out a
Hmm.
few times a week. So it could be the podcast version of that. It could be short conversations with other people like you do. It could be the thing that I'm really interested in is this juicy, meaty, conversational. Uh, how do we explore difficult conversations together? How do we talk about difficult topics? There are a couple of podcasts that are doing this right now. This like, how do we have conversations when
Hmm.
we are not in the same, when we don't believe the same thing, when we have big disagreements, when we have small disagreements? I think discourse has really gotten. I'm this is my alert to say this is. I'm about to say a thing that is not going to surprise anybody that you've all heard before, which is discourse has really gotten hijacked by the hot the hot take, the quick take, the short headline version of an idea. And I think we lose a lot when we don't have actual spoken conversations in real time with other humans to figure out what we think, to figure out what the common ground is, to figure out where there's not common ground. I think that is something that is incredibly important and something that I'm really interested in exploring. Was
I
that
would.
any kind of answer?
Those were words into sentences. Yes. I first of all, I would agree. Yes, I think that's where the interesting stuff lies in the interaction between multiple people, multiple minds. Um, and yes, I can be interested and distracted by mic tech and a million details and is my hair on straight today or whatever. And but when I really think about it, yes, it's the meaty parts of the conversations, as you said. And I'm just thinking, um, there's so many things that you could create, but why don't you record one of those meaty conversations? It's two something. What is it? 2 o'clock, 2:10. Why don't you record one of those at 3 o'clock with someone and then push publish? Like, it doesn't count if you don't publish it.
Right. I don't have a good answer for that.
Well,
I should. That is what I should do. I'm not going to do that today. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm not going to do that today at 3 o'clock. But I love the idea of like just do the thing. Stop talking about doing the thing. Stop making lists about doing the thing. Stop taking courses about doing the thing, and do
that's
and do
come
the
up a lot.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I do often say, just do the thing. Like, what would happen if I just did, well, I've done 200 conversations. What would happen if I just did 500? What would happen if I did 1,000? What would happen to me if I did 10,000 conversations? I'd be like,
Mm,
well, based on some of the ones I've had already today, this is not the first one of these today. I'm like, I'd be a pretty different person if I had 1,000 conversations
mm,
like these three today. Um, So I think for me, the way that I sort of like jumped the hurdle was to forget about trying to accomplish something with it, like something external. Like, I never wanted, like, I've never thought I'm going to leave a legacy of, no, no. But I'm not going to try and change the world. I'm going to try and be the change that I'd like to see in the
Mm,
world. I think that's Mandela's said that, or was it Desmond Tutu? Somebody said,
yeah.
be the change that you want to see. And I thought, well, okay, I can make myself a better person by having interesting to me, follow my curiosity type conversations with people. So that's sort of how that was the railroad locomotive that I lashed all the pieces to. And then I went, oh, well, okay, I have this problem of like cover art is a pain in the butt. So I whipped out, my crappy thing and I made a big red P and then I made a drop shadow gray and I went save 3000 pixel square, upload to Simplecast. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's like,
Mm,
I'm done. And you know what? Not a single person has said, dude, your logo is ugly. they're all pressing play. They're not listening to that. So
right,
I just
right.
kept looking at everything and went, why can't I press publish immediately after recording? And of course, the first answer is, well, I got to download the files. Okay, so I download the files, and well, you need to run it through Hindenburg and at least balance the levels, Craig. And I went, how do you do that? I had to look up the manual. Oh, there's a hotkey for that. Okay, that takes 2 seconds. And I just kept like, what is between record and publish? One problem that I think most people might have out of the gate is who are you going to talk to.
Hmm.
To be completely obnoxious, I don't have that problem. There is a list of 60 people who are on the queue to get, and I'm just like hounding people. I had to slow down. I was hounding them too quickly. And then Calendly filled up as a limit. And I was like, oh, this is an embarrassment of riches. I have to pace the outreach because everybody just says what you said, which is, yes, please. How do I, when, um, which actually, I don't know if I want to like, do you have things you want to say in response to that before I ask a different question?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I have
it's
many
the
thoughts, but I want to hear what you're going to ask.
it's the Craig Talks to Craig show. I was going to go a different direction, which is I am discovering that the outreach part of what I'm doing is this magnificent gift to people. And
Mm,
I mean, on one hand, I have the imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I nagging people? Like the third time I message Angie and say, do you want to be in a thing? And I feel like I'm nagging people, but no, actually, that's not what's going on. The third time that I message someone, I like switch mediums. I'm like a two over here, and then I go to forward link, and somebody goes, "Oh my goodness, thank you for following up. I missed the first." Like across the board, people are so
hmm.
happy, and when that became glaringly obvious, I went, "Oh, it's almost as if my intention for doing the outreach is to be generous, that comes through." And I'm saying that because like Angie
Mm,
often talks about intention. I'm like, hey, look at that. So I don't know
yeah.
if you've ever thought about, how inviting someone to such a conversation, as you were just the conversation you were describing before. Have you ever thought about how inviting someone to that kind of conversation is a gift?
I haven't, but I love that. And the thing that I was thinking about was that so much of what I do in terms of talking about my work is not a conversation, ironically, is not a conversation. It's a blog post that goes out. And it's funny, a lot of what I write, I don't get. I get maybe some stuff on LinkedIn if I post it on LinkedIn, but most of the people who get my blog posts don't email me back. They have other things to do with their lives. It's fine. I don't take it personally. But every now and then one will hit and I'll get, a ton of emails back. It's just something happens that day. But, and the book is the same way. So a book is a one-way communication. It's me writing down a bunch of words and sending it out
Right.
into the world where hopefully people will read it. But what I really like about what you're saying is there's a way to say, here's what I'm interested in exploring. Here's a conversation I'm interested in having. I'd love to have it with you. Will you join me for a 20-minute conversation on this podcast? And I'm not that I don't find that to be a scary idea to invite people to that. I think the thing that becomes a hurdle for me is just like you. I have a lot of irons in the fire. If I'm going to do a thing, I want to make sure I can be
Yeah.
consistent with it. That this thing is going to come out every week, or it's going to come out every 2 weeks, or it's going to come out every 3 days, or whatever. That there's some kind of cadence that I can commit to.
Yeah, see, there's nothing I want to push back on. There's no cadence to this show. So the cadence is, hey, great talk, Angie. And today published. Like they come out, like their weird days where like 6 of them come out because I did 6 in one day, and then there's nothing for 3 days. And
Huh.
I had the same thing. So Mover's Mindset, it takes a lot of effort to put them together, and then it's like, well, we haven't done one in 5 weeks, and I feel like I'm not doing it. So I'm like, I can't start another show. I can't even do the one I have now. And I realized that schedule was a thing, and I went, no, wait. I started out by saying, what do I have to do to have a cool conversation with Angie? I need to press record and I have to press publish. I don't have to do anything else. It doesn't have to be on
Mm.
Tuesday. It has to fit in Angie's schedule. That actually is tricky to get people like, so I do everything I can to make myself available in like strange, moving blocks of time. Um, but I'm finding nobody has said to me, I want an episode every day, or, well, I'm going way faster than one every other week, but nobody has said you got to be on a certain cadence. And I'm thinking that cadence doesn't actually matter. I know for myself for a fact, maybe I think other people too, we're hiding in that. Like,
Mm.
I can't commit to, this is Craig's actually said this to himself. I can't commit to like every month because I'm going to go camping every once in a while and then it's going to fall into that. And this specific show here, I just went, you know what I'm going to do? Nobody can schedule more than 7 days out. And I can, if like I'm getting swamped, so I'm 6 days out, like I just eliminate a day. And then I look at my schedule in advance and I go, like, for example, I'm going away this weekend. So there are no schedule opportunities. Like 9 days ago, I like blocked out Wednesday, Thursdays out, Mondays out, no more window until Wednesday. And I'm just like, it's working for me and nobody seems to care. So I'm not trying to browbeat you into launching a show. I'm just saying
Are
I
you sure?
too, the world might be a better place if you did it, but I too
Oh.
found that trying to commit to a schedule is daunting. Like, like this show's 20 some episodes in. When does it end? I don't know. I don't care. Like it ends when I don't do the next one. Like, what if I just did a bunch of them and had fun?
I
I don't know.
love this. I was thinking as you were talking about one of my favorite podcasts is one that, without getting into the details of it, is produced by the athletic department of the university team that I follow. And so I was thinking, well, that's an outlier because they have to, they have a cadence that goes with the teams. But you know what? Over the summer, they just do it whenever they feel like it because they have stuff to do. And I was like, I
And
think you're
how
onto
excited are
something
you
here.
when they drop that episode and you're
I'm
just like,
so
whoo,
excited.
look what I
I
found.
know.
Yeah.
Exactly. I really I think there's a lot to that. And I think the one of the other things I really love about your process is that having the calendar, having people being able to book means you're going to show up to do the thing. So as
Oh
long
yeah.
as your system, yeah, so as long as your system is set up so that you've issued the invitations, you've said, "Hey, I would love X, Y, and Z people to be part of this," and you said you've got 60 people already kind of lined up to do this, then that part of it is gonna, at least for somebody like me and for somebody like you, the accountability part, that's gonna take care
Yeah.
of itself. You're not gonna not show up. You're gonna do that. So I really I really like that. I think I'm gonna get the book out first, if that's okay with you. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, fine. Which reminds me, name of the book?
The name of the book is Before You Say Anything: How to Have Better Conversations, Love Public Speaking, and Finally Know What to Do with Your Hands.
Awesome. I'm making jazz hands. I know what to do with my hands.
That's right. That's what you're
Um,
supposed to do with your hands. Spoiler.
and we did blog, but you didn't say the name of your website or your company. You skipped over all that.
I did. My
Miss
company is
doesn't want to
Ignite
self promote.
CSP. That's right. No, I do. Ignite CSP, coaching, speaking, presenting, and it's ignitecsp.com. And yeah, so that's where the blog is found. That's where all things Ignite CSP and Before You Say Anything are found at the moment.
Terrific. I have my blog. I always say it's like, yeah, it's the homepage for Craig. Like you just start here, and it's basically like links to everything. So at least you can go there. Just try to.
Yes.
For me, it's just
Yes.
kind of like keep it all in one place so people can find it if anybody cares.
That's right.
Okay, so we started out by talking about someday, and I take some little scratchy notes here as I'm trying to figure out what the title for the show is, because if the show has to be published in 5 minutes, it means I have to figure out the title too.
Yes.
And you mentioned serial, like doing things, repeatedly creating projects. And I had, I'm going to say a friend who was a guest on the Movers Mindset podcast. He was, there's like sometimes you record them out of order, right? So I think he was the second and fourth interview and became the third episode. It's like the second one was a complete disaster. We decided to throw it out. And then at like episode 90 something, he came back on the show with his wife, who's an accomplished, like road toured with Dylan, like famous, guitar player. Um, but the gentleman's name is Thomas Droge, and he's like an accomplished Tai Chi and Qigong teacher. Like, I didn't know this when I met the guy. He brought his kids to like a martial arts class, and then I knew him through parkour from jumping on stuff. And then one day I'm like, well, you're like really good. So we start talking. So he's our generation. So he was talking, yeah, there, I might come to a point. He was talking about, he wanted to write a book. And he said, I have these ideas in my head. And in his mind, once he gets it, he'd like, I'm making a gesture, I'm looking up and I'm thinking.
Yes.
And then he has it figured out. Like, okay, I know what I want to do. He said in his mind, it's done. I don't need to add, right? Like the hard part, the interesting part is to figure it out. Like what, and then he explains what his book is going to be, but what would the thing be? So we're talking about making a podcast. So like you do the moment where you're sipping your favorite beverage and you're like, it would be like this. And then I talk about that. And this would be the first guest. And like, yeah. And he said, fortunately, I'm married to a woman who like, her name is Brenda. He's like, Brenda will walk up to me and be like, you write that first chapter yet? And like, so what I'm getting at is you may, everybody out there, you may need someone else to balance the creativity. You might need your own version of a Craig to be like, dude, just press record and then I'll upload it for you. Like you may need to look for the thing that you're hung up on. And it might not be as easy as I'm saying, just schedule it through Calendly or just skip the cover art or whatever. You may actually need to go, there's this thing I'm hung up on and I actually need somebody else. You mentioned, I think in the pre-conversation, you mentioned hiring a producer to I was going to say help, but probably more like show you how, guide you through making the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's clearly a case of like, you wanted to do it. You clearly have the skills to do it. You have the theater background, like, yes, but I need help. So I think there's a lot to be said for knowing when to punt and ask for help on things. I don't know. That's not a question. I could put a question mark on, I could put a question mark on the end of it.
But there are a couple of things in there that I feel like I can pick up on. And one is, yes, absolutely. I think part of the thing about my theater background is, I am almost at this point cellularly designed to do things in teams. Theater is a collaborative art.
Right.
You really can't do it by yourself. You have to have other people. So, and one of the things I really love about the way theater works is that everybody brings this incredible skill set. You've got a lighting designer and a sound designer and a costume designer and a props designer, and sometimes you've got a fight choreographer, and you've got all these actors who are doing special things. You've got a stage manager, and you've got a front of house staff, and you've got all these people who are bringing their piece of the pie, right, to make the whole thing be a pie, I guess. And I love that. And it is a thing that really makes me excited when all of the pieces start to come together. So part of the thing that I try to do in most of my creative endeavors is, where's the part where I can relax a little bit and go, this person's going to bring their genius into this process. This person is going to bring their ideas. This person is going to, because there is for me, there's almost a safety net of other people's artistry, other people's creativity, other people's experience and expertise that is not mine. And and I know that really clearly, that there are, many, many, many things that are not my strength. So to your point, finding somebody who is that Craig voice that's like, okay, now it's time to produce. Now it's time to press record. Now it's time to
who's the first guest, right?
Stop sitting on your hands and just do the thing. And to allow it to be iterative and in process, the way like a rehearsal is, that it doesn't have to be maybe opening night. Maybe we find our way to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good,
to belabor my theater metaphor.
No, I love metaphors. What's a metaphor? Get it? Meta. I love when people start using metaphors, and I'm always like, one part of me is thinking, let's see how far you can carry the metaphor before it like completely falls apart. Um,
Yeah, keep your eye on me.
yeah,
Sometimes it
but
completely falls
metaphor,
apart.
metaphor is really just storytelling, right? You one is using. My brain went off on a tangent because you mentioned soup as a metaphor, and that was another thing that Thomas and I talked about very early on in my podcasting journey, and he was talking about how all these people come together. We were talking about parkour as a physical activity. These people physically come together. We're all like in a circle doing push-ups and we're sweating, but we're all bringing something and we're making soup. And he was so you said soup, and I'm like, there's that metaphor again. 5 years later, and I think people's innate urge to tell stories is it's innate. Like you're not going to get around that. And when I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see people having a really good conversation without distracting them, like sometimes if you come in the room, it wrecks it. But if you see them having a good conversation, they're like animated storytelling going on there. Bad grammar, and they're like, oh, and then I did this and the thing, and they're like, oh my god, that happened to me too. Like, and that reminds me of this, and they're sharing experiences as like the conveyor belt that's moving the ideas between them. So they're not, and then A implies B, which then, I mean, like I'm a big fan of reason and rationality, but there's a place for that. And it's not, I think, in a good conversation, not going to be the driver for a good conversation. But
Right.
no,
Yeah.
now I'm rambling.
No, 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 not at all.
So cool. Anything else that springs to mind related to, what the name of your new podcast is going to be or when you're going to
I don't know.
I'm
Maybe I
brutal.
should name it after the book.
That's a pretty obvious thing to do. We just figure out maybe how to. Well, I won't put ideas in your head, but yes, that would be interesting.
I think I've just said I need other people to put ideas in my head. So they are more than welcome. I love that idea.
Yeah, but I think it's always better to like, well, what's in the well before I throw my 2 cents in the well.
Yeah.
That isn't even a metaphor. That doesn't make any sense at all.
It's a mixed metaphor. I think that's all
A
right. It's a
mixed
wishing well
metaphor.
that you've thrown 2 cents
Right. That's what I
into
was like.
or something.
I just smashed the well as an idea, as a font of information with the wishing well where you would throw 2 cents. What? That doesn't make any sense. All right, great. We'll end on complete and utter chaos.
I love it. I love it.
Chaos disorder. Our work here is done.
Yes.
Angie, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.